How's everybody doing? Please forgive my shoddy appearance. It's been a rough week and it's been hard to get enough rest and get work in and blah blah blah. Anyway, what is going on in the world today? It's kind of crazy. We've got this, I don't want to call it a war because it hasn't officially jumped the shark, if you will, and gone full blown the way that certain other wars, Ukrainian war and so on, have gone, where they're protracted and drawn out. But right now we're sitting under what our president is calling a temporary truce, which of course both Israel and Iran have already absconded and decided that they're going to just do whatever they want to do. But basically Israel, who unfortunately has a history of this, has basically accused Iran of being on the verge of creating a nuclear weapon. He did the same thing with Saddam. They did the same thing with Egypt back in the day. They've done this a few times. And by the way, at the outset here, I don't want this to be political, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm jumping to either side. I don't think God is political. I think Satan is, and I think that all of this is being used to set up the background for not only the rise of Antichrist, but also the rise of the 7 kings of the north, the 3 of the south that Daniel 7:24 says the Antichrist will eventually throw down, and also the Islamic Mahdi, also known as the king of the south in Daniel 11, especially towards the end of the chapter, that is supposed to rise and be the arch nemesis of Antichrist, that I'm sure the Antichrist will call the Antichrist, so as to garner as much support in the West as possible for his nefarious purposes. That being said, nobody can actually look at each individual event on the ground and be able to say with full certainty that this is the event that's going to start it. However, it's looking a lot like many of our recent forays into warlike postures and all the bombings and all the different attempts at political coups and the subversion of different regimes. Look at Syria, look at all the different places that have been taken over against their own people's will. What we're seeing, I believe, is a intentional shaping, if you will, of the public sentiment of both the people of Iran and the Middle East in general against Israel, with the express purpose of eventually bringing about, especially with the timeline being so short, I don't expect this to take too long. But I think the whole goal in all of this is to create a public sentiment both in Iran and all throughout the Middle East in general against Israel, so as to eventually bring these 3 kings together, have them basically link arms with the Mahdi, or the false Antichrist, or the king of the south, however you want to call him, basically given public support to such a degree that he can then go on his little crusade against the West in general, thus engendering the entire purpose for Antichrist to rise to save us and Israel from his advances, all while all of this has already been pre-planned. The 7 European leaders are going to be in league with Antichrist, and technically speaking, in league with those 3 southern kings, and the 3 southern kings are going to offer up this king of the south as a bit of a scapegoat so that Antichrist can have somebody to vent his spleen at, and again, garner all that support, eventually trick the church, great tribulation. You guys know how the rest goes, I hope, if you've been following this channel or reading your Bibles. So there was a tentative ceasefire. This has happened many times in the history. Again, different countries that have had little squabbles with Israel. Of course, Egypt is one of the big names. Qatar is having some issues. We've got Saudi Arabia. We've got, of course, Iran. Turkey has kind of sat back, but the reality is, at least as far as religion and politics are concerned, they're becoming more Islamist day by day. So I do expect them to eventually jump in and throw in their hat in the ring, if you will, and link up with the rest of the Muslim Middle Eastern countries, again, against Israel and the West. And again, this is all ostensible with the goal of trying to put on as much of a show as possible and create as much of a fervor as far as public sentiment here in the West regarding our own self-defense and our own safety. Because again, when people are saying peace and safety, life will snap shut on them like a trap. And the end times themselves are all one big shell game of deception by Satan and his demons, specifically so as to create as much, well, let's call it pseudo-faith, but truly faith in Antichrist, and as little faith in the actual Christ, while he shakes a stick in your face, threatens your life, and tries to get you to focus on what you see versus what you know or should know because of what the Bible has to say about these things. What does this mean for Christians? Well, if you guys are watching social media, the mass majority of Christians, unfortunately, are starting to fall further and further into this trap of supporting Israel no matter what, which is, in my opinion, very wrong because, well, let's be honest. If Israel was a nation of believers as they were commanded to be, things would be very different. And we could reasonably say that the Israel that exists today is linked to the Israel of God. When really, when we look into the New Testament, we look in Romans, we look in Ephesians and elsewhere, the church itself is an outgrowth of Israel. That doesn't mean that Israel is done for. It means that for the time being, we are the prime targets until, again, the end times actually kicks off. Fall of 2026, if you haven't been paying attention to my videos. Firm believer in the 7-day, 7,000-year plan of man, and that this particular timeline points to a relative start date of fall of 2026. So with everything that's going on right now, I not only expect it to pick up and increase, I expect nefarious actions in the background to eventually lead to this world scene where we are basically, the West at large, basically given no option but to join in with Antichrist and his, well, crusades, his World War, basically 2 and 3 during the first half of the tribulation, which are right around the corner. And when I say forced in, I mean our government. I don't mean the people individually. Obviously, we as Christians who are paying attention know that throwing our lot in with Antichrist is the last thing that we should ever do. Although, unfortunately, well, a third of believers are set to wholeheartedly support him and his actions not long from now. So the idea of an Islamic Antichrist is being sold far and wide. This is a major misconception in today's church, on top of overt political support of Israel as if they were the nation of Israel that's spoken about in the Bible. And neither of these things, unfortunately, pan out when you take the whole witness of Daniel, Revelation, a few other places, but those are the two largest ones that really break down the entire end time scene scenario. So again, for those of us that are paying attention, there will always be subversion and lies involved in these little squabbles. And I call this a squabble specifically because although technically we are under a ceasefire, I'm hearing earlier today that both Iran and Israel are bombing each other back and forth, and all the while Iran's bombing Qatar. And you know, they're both promising, at least at first, to agree to the ceasefire, and Trump sees it as this, you know, great success and we're all going to get along, peace. But I also have come to find, and this may or may not be true, but I mean, Iran moved all of their nuclear material before we bombed, and then before they bombed Qatar, they let us know so we could move our people out. It's all theater. It's all designed specifically to fool you, and we must not get caught up in this nonsense. We cannot get caught up in political Zionism. It's stupid. God absolutely will honor every single one of his promises to the Israeli people, but he will do so on his terms. It will be in faith in his son, and it will be at his perfect timing. It will not be something that is forced upon the world by political means, subterfuge, intrigue, violence, lies, none of these things. Yes, there will be violence because the Lord will be the one that stops them. There will be blood everywhere, but it will be done in his perfect way. And there will be absolutely no question that when Jesus Christ returns, that the people of Israel's king is home. The other side of this is not allowing ourselves to be fooled into thinking that somehow, some way, this false notion of an Islamic Antichrist can somehow even be a reality. It totally makes sense that Antichrist would have a Antichrist, I say that with quotes, so as to allow the West to be scared and corral them into supporting him the whole time, so as to take as many down with him as possible. That's Satan's whole goal. He doesn't want to be replaced. He does not want to lose out on his perception of success in trying to foul the plan of God. And he's always fighting a rearguard action. He's always playing catch up because God knows everything. But that doesn't mean that while we are here on this earth, that free will isn't a true issue for us. It's the reason why falling away is possible. It's not outside of our willful control, but that doesn't mean that we can't be fooled. Otherwise, Christ wouldn't have told us to not be fooled so many times. I hope this makes sense. Didn't want to ramble too long. I know you guys got lots of stuff to do, but diligence is key. Keeping our mind's eye on the Word, on the Spirit, keeping our focus on our spiritual growth and coming into our ministry and helping others do the same. That's the true goal that's going on right now. Not freaking out about some fake ghost in the background, some Baba Yaga, some boogeyman that's designed to, well, basically make you flinch and perhaps question whether or not your eyes are capable of seeing as well as your spirit with the Spirit's help. It's just not true. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's really time to dig into your faith, get through those hard tests, because right now, as I've said before, Christians everywhere, especially those who are extremely serious in their walk, are being tested and tempted. I don't know about you guys, but my life hasn't gotten any easier. Every single thing that I've put my hand to has essentially fallen to dust. It's like sand through my hand, but I'm trying to hold on as best I can. I know the Lord always gets me through. I've got all these kids to take care of, just like you guys have your responsibilities. There's no reason for us to lose hope. It is imperative that we take these trials on the chin and learn to grow to the point to where we can withstand what's coming, because the tests and the trials that are happening right now are nothing compared to what's coming. Like, share, comment, subscribe. For those who are trying and those who are growing, tell as many people as you can, but also accept the fact that there are just those that are not going to accept, even Christians, a real view of what's going on in the world. That doesn't mean that we should be caught unawares. Talk to you guys soon.